All right, welcome back to the program. It's now 9 minutes past 7 a.m. Welcome to the program. Of course, we are starting the viewpoint today. A lot is happening in the country, and I really want us to take a look at basically what is happening in the political arena and what is the state of politics and the state of the nation as we speak. A lot really happened, and I have to point out that I've received an apology from the senator, that is nominated Senator Veronica Maina. She sent a message saying that she'll not be able to make it because they left the Senate late in the night after the impeachment process of Governor Kawira Mwangaza. So she has sent her apology due to that. Of course, we understand it was a rigorous exercise. Nonetheless, the show is on air right now, The Viewpoint. And in studio, I have three gentlemen, brilliant brains. Every time they are on set, it's never easy moment for me, I have to admit, on the onset. Because they are brilliant. I don't know how I'm going to handle them today. I'm talking about Eric Muturi Wanduthi, who is a governance expert and a policy analyst, as well as Daniel Orogo, who is also a governance expert and policy analyst. He also wears many hats, I will tell you, many hats. Which hats are those? Behind the scenes there, I'll introduce him very shortly. That is Wilson Sosion, who is a former NAT SecGen. He'll also tell us what is really happening in the education sector. A lot is happening, and teachers have also threatened to go on strike. Vast experience to that effect. Walimu, you'll tell us behind the scenes. Okay, so let me start by just giving you the background. So last night, the Senate generally upheld the impeachment of Governor Kawira Mwangaza, and now, as per it stands, the trial started on Monday, where up to yesterday, the impeachment of Kawira Mwangaza was now upheld following the development that came after the senators upheld the impeachment by the Meru County Assembly. 26 senators voted to uphold the first charge. That is on gross violation of the Constitution. 26 senators voted to uphold that charge, the gross violation of the Constitution and other laws. Some 14 senators abstained, while 4 voted in her favor. So on the second charge of gross misconduct, 26 senators voted in favor of her impeachment, 2 against, while 14 others abstained. And 27 senators upheld the charge of abuse of office, 1 vote against, and 14 abstained. Now, most of those who abstained are allied to the opposition parties. That is what is here. So this was Mwangaza's 3rd impeachment to reach the Senate since she was actually elected into office in August 2022. With the first one, the hearing, which was determined by the committee, the first impeachment was determined by the committee, but the second and third went to the plenary. So up to this particular point, she stands impeached. And that means the deputy governor will automatically take charge of that county for the remaining part of the term that they're supposed to serve as a team in that particular county. So I just want to take a look at that, what really happens, and other stories getting us moving in the political arena in the country. But let me start with Eric Muturi. Good to see you once again.
Good to see you, Victor.
While you are moving up and about out there, what really happened outside Kenya?
Victor, first, good morning to the viewer.
Good morning.
It's been long since I interacted with the beautiful viewers. And thank you for launching me. We're in the season of launching. I must say thank you very much also for launching us on the show this morning. We woke up to some interesting news, of course. As I used to hear, as resilient as a, what did they say, as a termite or something. But I think now resilience must be accounted to the Meru MCAs. They have been very persistent. They have finally had their day. It's interesting times, interesting scenes. And I think We'll be dissecting more of that in the show. But first is to say good morning. I've really missed the viewers.
Karibu sana.
And it's good to see you, Victor. I think you're eating well. I can see the economy is treating you fairly.
I'm good in the Lord. That's what they say. Akini God. Ni God
Maze.
Ni God Maze. I appreciate. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you coming on the show. And Daniel as well. Karibu sana. It's been a while.
Not
but
really.
Now that at least we're here.
Not really. I think some 2 weeks or so.
Exactly.
But I think that's a long time for matters that always arise in politics. They're always saying it's been a day is too long.
Yeah.
In politics, and of course that has been longer with events that have unfolded. But I think first of all is to every time we hear something also tragic happens to a country, and therefore we'd want to condole with the families of those who lost their loved ones on the tragic Maga incidents. That we've reportedly lost 14 lives for those who are traveling from Kisumu to Mombasa via the ill-fated bus. So it is just to urge, slowly we are gravitating towards a season, holiday season. And I think it's important to urge caution and, for all the drivers and those who are taking part in the transport industry, that we don't need to lose lives. More has been lost in different events, and I think we just urge them to exercise some caution. But also, like you've asked, we are also waking up to, news of an impeachment. Kawira has had so many political lives and have survived different, impeachment trials. And I think this one now has finally, hit the nail, and she's home. I would be advised of the legal implications, whether she has the mandate to still proceed to the courts, or maybe to obtain orders, some restraining orders. And I think that is probably legal expert could advise whether...
But it has happened before in some other impeachment that we've seen in the past.
Yes, I mean, now if the team would want to maybe try to appeal, I don't know whether that is provided within the law. If that is, I foresee a situation where she and the legal team would want to obtain those restraining order. But, Victor, this is also happening in a number of backgrounds. One, just the other weekend when the G7 convened in Machakos. And now with this particular turn of events, I don't know whether they've been reduced now to G6 because the women governors now... We'll get to those particular...
We'll get more into that.
But of course it's interesting.
You've actually opened... I still ask whether you got into my notes. Because the number was G7, has come now to G6.
Yes.
Sosion, welcome to the program. We are talking about that. Nobody saw that happen because her impeachment, the second time it happened, so perhaps it was becoming so apparent that she was going to survive the third one. And here we are. The senators worked until past midnight until they had their decision.
Well, a decision has been taken by the Senate. And as per the law, it's binding. And the sad bit of it about impeachment is that once you are impeached, then you are unfit to hold any public office any further. You are not electable, even as an MC or anything, and nor to occupy a public office. So it's quite an inhuman provision if those who are processing impeachment proceedings do not handle it well. I think we need to have thresholds of impeachment, because the impeachment clause, to me, I think has been abused, because it ends up dehumanizing a person who is elected by the majority. The majority of the people elect you, but a few individuals will caucus and remove you including your own deputy, who was your running mate. You see, when you put a telescope in the whole of this process of impeachment and the drama around it, it's extremely unfair to the victims. And me, I've never bought anything called impeachment in this particular manner, because the thing is, when you call out voters to come and vote, they will listen, take decisions, and if you've taken a decision, live with it for 5 years, and probably a compromise to the impeachment that is vested in either National Assembly or County Assembly should be subject to some referendum by the people, so that then the impeachment ruling of the Senate should be taken back to the people of Meru to decide whether they concur or not, because that really is not the representation of the people.
Perhaps that's also represent what happens for the MPs, because also MPs have that recall clause. After 2 years, there's a threshold.
Which is almost impossible to attain.
Which is impossible to attain.
Okay.
It's easier to impeach a governor than recall an MP.
Impeachment of governors being so easy, and you are removed from flimsy politics. We saw what happened with Waititu in Kiambu. It was cooked so quickly, and it was a political charade, and he was kicked out. We saw what happened with Mike Songo here in Nairobi. He was kicked out by the state. Now we have seen what is happening with Kawira Mwangasa, an assembly of very unrelenting, crude political individuals who, and you heard the lady say, the lady say, we are prepared to impeach even 6, 7, 8 times. That means it was war and war and war, and that doesn't make things any better, because Mwangasa has followers in Meru. To me, humanly speaking, and from the labor position where I come from, and where there has to be fair administration of justice, I think that was a bit too inhuman. Very inhuman.
Your opening remarks.
Meru Assembly on the person of the governor.
Well, your opening remarks, but now let's start the conversation and open it up. Now that has happened. She's out of office. It has been there for, this is not the third time. Gentlemen, we've been treated to your own words, unrelenting MCAs who were so determined to kick out the governor. What does this really show? And this now goes to all of you. Let me start with you, Daniel. Yes.
Well, I think the drafters of the Constitution, I think in their own imagination could have, left some of these particular processes really unchecked and, place it at the hands of people who sometimes the imagination and the practice of democracy, do not really meet the threshold of expectations. And I think I was going through a document, a book written by, Anne Coles on the leaderless revolution, when she's mentioning what are the cost implications of democracy, representative democracy. And she's saying why the world, and especially young people, are so disenchanted about this current state of democracy. And she notes that the tyranny that is left on the hands of those who are uneducated of the requirements of democracy becomes a threat to democracy in itself. So then I concur with what Honorable Sossion is talking about, that we left some of these particular veto powers in the hands of those who, their imagination, their practice has not really reached to a level of maturing democracy. And therefore, people can be vilified. You can put hatred, you can put misinformation, you can disinform people and whip emotions and find out that you have taken someone, use the legal process or the legal processes that are there without not really checked, and take someone out of office. And I think that is what we've seen in the prosecution of all this matter. how many times have Kawira been in the Senate? You know, third or fourth time, probably. Yes. And the MCAs, I was following the proceeding, one of the MCAs that was captured on a television, and I think that was displayed, and people were seeing, they were saying, you know, they were prepared to do this more and more. What was the reason? Probably because of flimsy reasons, political reasons, cultural reasons around Meru issues. But you see now that in itself is a threat to a representative democracy and how that should be practiced. And we find ourselves on that. So I think that is probably the situation of what is happening in Meru. And I think there was so sporadic sometimes you realize that MCAs were becoming a threat to different county chiefs.
Yes.
You know, sometimes until
if
this
you don't
was,
do according to what we want.
you know, yeah, if you don't do according to what we want,
Yes.
and you see I was seeing the publication, they were saying that they have to sometimes begin around 80,000, you know, for their stipends and their travels. And if you do not sign into this or do not find a way of working with MCAs, then you're out of seat, either for an impeachment or some turmoil in your cause, you know, to serve in the county government. So I think it is quite important for us, these particular events, there's always a precedence that is always set when it's unchecked. So then you'll realize that other county MCAs are watching exactly what is happening in Meru and looking at the loopholes that are provided there with the tyranny of the numbers that are unchecked, and they began holding some county government chiefs to hostage. So all these particular issues really needs to be looked at.
Yes. I ask the question to all of you. I don't know what you think, Eric.
You know, the 2010 Constitution envisaged a situation where the Senate would be the reasonable house. It was, so to speak, like the US system where the Senate is the upper house. We anticipated that the Senate would exercise some level of sobriety, would exercise some level of caution, because in essence, you're killing someone's career, and for good. But the beauty about the English language is that it provides a collective term for legislature. You know, like the way you say a pride of lion, or something like that. There's actually a collective term for legislature, which I'll not mention on air because the viewers already know what that is. And I think they exercised that discretion in accordance to what the English language confers to them. And why is this so? Remember, even though the governor has come before them 2 times, and they decided, you know, to do this once and for all, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the MCAs must be told and must be taught how to toe the line. Look at the issues that were raised, including gross violation. When you look at the word gross violation and the issues that led to the impeachment of Mwangaza, you find that the Senate tended to trivialize the Constitution in itself. Look at Mike Sonko today. He cannot run. He tried to run for Mombasa. He tried to run for Nairobi again. Look at Waitito, went to UDA nominations. People went to court. He was put in a certain Nairobi Rivers Commission. Someone went to court. The court ruled that he was unfit to hold public office.
Because of the accusations.
Because of the accusation.
Right.
But be that as it may, I also feel the Senate did a good thing inadvertently. How so? You see, if you were to take Wambora's case, Wambora was impeached, I think, 6 times by the MCAs of Meru. And he got the term, the man who has 9 lives. What saved Wambora was the fact that after impeachment, when he went to court, because now, you know, the court process is a live process. Pending determination of the matter, then the MCAs cannot intervene again, okay? So if Kawira Mwangaza were to go to court and get orders pending determination of the case and hold the decision, you know, stay the decision by the Senate, then the MCAs have no political reprieve in terms of going back to the Senate, because now they can't, they've already exhausted their right to deal with the matter at the political Senate level. So at the court level, it becomes very good for her, because then it becomes a question of law and it becomes a question of fact. And that is how Wambora was able to survive for 10 years, despite the number of times that. So the Senate, in a way, inadvertently, if Kawira can get orders from, and you know, the beauty about judiciary now, and is not to cast aspersions on them, we have created a very nice judiciary. And when you look at the gender parity, you can tell that even though G7-1 on this side, there is still some level of representation on the other side of the judiciary, whatever that means. And so if we are to uphold the issue of gender parity, the issue of progressiveness, you know, the issue of governance, I think she's in good standing.
Are you talking about the Woe effect?
No. I'm just saying, I'm alluding to the fact that, you know, in the judiciary, in the judiciary, you know, we know if it works like a duck, and you know it's sitting like a duck,
right?
It must be one.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we still have much more to talk about, because we've already set the pace on how, and the tone on how this discussion is going to be. We just want to look at it. Mike Sonko went home. We have Babaya Waititu, you know, Wambora was also here. And now, the first female governor to go home, that is Kawira Mwangaza. So,
but she's not the first to be impeached.
Yes.
Anne Waiguru was the first woman governor to be impeached. Right. And you know who washed her? Moshe Mumoja.
Let's take that. Okay, so it's a dark moment for Mwangaza. Take a break. We'll be right back shortly. Stay with us.